Hey friends, it's me, the Ebony Otaku, well-rounded nerd. So I had this whole awesome reaction horror video game thing filmed. I found some new software that I liked. I was like, oh, I'm going to try something new and different because I want to just, see what hits on my channel. And half the video uploaded wonderfully, and then the other half of it, like, I don't know what happened with the video processor I was using. It just decided it didn't want to work. And I'm kind of like, about it. So I'm recording something else in the meantime. And then hopefully tomorrow I'll get that to work. We'll just have to see and try again because that's how the YouTube game works. So I thought today we might dive back into the world of Warhammer. Yes, I see Memoirs of a Geisha up there. I'm going to get back to her next week, I promise. But I thought we'd dive back into the world of Warhammer and Warhammer 40K. One, because I love it. And two, when we started talking about the book Fulgrim, I remembered, wait, there's like a whole other part to this that we haven't even talked about, which is the Angel Exterminatus. Now, I don't have a hardcover of this particular book or a softback because I ended up doing the audiobook thing. The Black Library, if you don't know, they have their own whole website, which why wouldn't they? It's the year 2022. Anyway, I get a lot of reading done with books on tape. Busy adults, books on tape. It's an awesome thing. But I ended up grabbing the Angel Exterminatus audio. The Angel Exterminatus is the 23rd book in the Horus Heresy series. And it's still going, y'all. It's still a thing. I know that some fans had gotten tired because it seems like things had kind of lulled for a little while and they were kind of rehashing the same story over and over. But there are certain characters in these novels that you will latch onto. Like one of my personal favorites is John Grammaticus. He's a perpetual, and there's only a couple of other perpetuals that we know about. The Primarch of the Salamanders, the Emperor himself. Perpetuals are a very rare breed. Basically, if they die, they just come back as something else. Vulcan lives. But they come back in another form or their same form, but they basically can't be killed except through the use of a heavenly object to take their final life from them. So that's a character that I love finding in the novels, and that's one of the cool things about the Warhammer series. There may be books that you encounter that don't do it for you. Like there was one about the Mechanicum that kind of drug for me. But inside of that novel, there were certain characters like, oh, so-and-so popped up. I'm glad to see them again. And also, Fulgrim and Angel Exterminatus were both written by Graham McNeill. And as far as authors in this series, of course, Dan Abnett, he's the GOAT. He's number one of the Black Library. But Graham McNeill is pretty amazing. And the consistency between his novels is pretty awesome as well. For those, I can't give you the full background on Warhammer right now, but for those who are new into this fandom, Warhammer is a tabletop game. You have your little figures and you paint them, and that's a lot of fun. I love that part personally. You build your world, and then you take your little figures and you go to war on a tabletop game. It's great. And it's also video games and the rest of it. It's a real-time strategy series for our gamers out there. But there's also the novels that go with it that's all about the world. And there are many authors that are contributing to the Warhammer universe. A whole lot of creative juice is going into this. I mean, all this back here, this shelf on my bookshelf, it's just Warhammer books. I had to quit buying the books and go to audiobooks because there's so many of them. But I'm still a lover of having physical media in my hand. Anyway, but there are rules of this universe. There's an established hierarchy, ways that citizens behave, who does what, why they do it, the different species and types of humans and aliens and chaos beings and all of that's established. So then what these authors do, then using those rules of the universe, they write the stories of how this universe operates and how certain moments came to be. And the Horus Heresy series is all about how the 40K universe came to be. There's Warhammer and there's Warhammer Warhammer 40K. Warhammer is the world while the Emperor was still alive. And then one of his sons betrays him, turns half of the Legiones Astartes against the Emperor, and then you have another contingent of Astartes, the other 10 legions that are still loyal. Well, technically 9 and 9, because 2 legions. Anyway, that's a whole thing. But you have half of the galaxy pro-emperor and half not, basically. And they go to war. That's why it's called Warhammer. But in the Warhammer 40K universe, that is post Horus Heresy, post Emperor's sons turning against their father. So that's kind of the distinction between the two. And plus it's 40,000 years in the future, hence the 40K. But that's just a little bit of background. That is the shortest synopsis. I have other videos on my channel that explain it greater, and there are some really awesome Warhammer creators out there. Luthien is one of my favorites. He just has that voice, you know, and you want to listen to him. But anywho, all that was a 6-minute intro, but hey, it's Warhammer. There's a lot to talk about. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So I have notes this time because there's just so much going on. I know I'm going to miss some things. I guess, spoiler warning, I'm not going to spoil the whole book because you need to read it or listen to it, whichever works for you. But the Angel Exterminatus is a continuation of Fulgrim's story. He's the Primarch of the Emperor's Children and pulls in Perturabo. He is another of the great Primarchs. Now, the whole deal with Fulgrim and his Emperor's Children is they live in pursuit of perfection. Before they turned to chaos, they were all about being the best fighters, looking the best while they did it. You know, it's like, not only am I going to cut your head off, I'm going to be fabulous while it happens. Like, that's who they were. They were all about the arts. They wanted to see humanity reach the greatest artistic pinnacles possible. And they wanted the art of war to be as perfect as possible. And they wanted the emperor of mankind to look on them as the peak of his creation. So whatever art form they chose, they gave themselves to it completely. One character we follow a lot is Lucius in The Emperor's Children. He is a swordsman, and he is the best, and he thinks he's second only to Fulgrim, and in his hubris actually kind of half challenges his Primarch sometimes, and Fulgrim's basically like, I'll kill you. I'll kill you. So don't come at me like that. You can't handle any of this. And then they've also got a lot of remembrancers in their legion as well. The remembrancers are artists from Earth, different kinds of art, whether it's the music arts, dramatic arts, writing, what is it when you make statues? I don't know what that's called. I know it has a name, but I don't know. But whatever it is, taking pictures, the whole thing. And their job is to document the Great Crusade, to reclaim the galaxy in the name of Emperor, in the name of humanity, as the Xenos species are vanquished. And some legions are okay with them, and some legions are like, sit in a corner, you're in the way. And Fulgrim and his legion are all like, take pictures of us. We're beautiful. We're perfect. We're vain. Watch all the things we do. The problem is, my dog just shook my camera. Bye, Sammy. The problem with that is even though the remembrancers serve a purpose, they are human. So they are weaker than the Legiones Astartes. You have to remember the Space Marines are genetically modified humans. They start out as people, but they catch them when they're real young, literally, and they start experimenting with them, give them extra hearts, all the stuff, you know, so then they turn into these giants and basically demigods amongst people. So they are what humans could be at the point of excess. And on the whole, Space Marines kind of look down on regular humans. They just do. I didn't say it was right or wrong. They just do. Even though they were all regular humans, but most of them don't retain a lot of memory of their human life as a result of the process of becoming an Astartes. Well, Fulgrim thinks he's got the most perfect Astartes ever, and as we discussed in the book Fulgrim, they fall. They fall to, I believe it's Slanesh, and he is the chaos god of debauchery and change, and let's Let's just do every crazy desire we have. So then that pursuit of perfection that Fulgrim has gets twisted by chaos. Or the other argument is, was it already twisted? Because perfection's not possible. Even the emperor of mankind, who technically in this world is a god, he does not want to be worshipped as a god because he doesn't feel that anything that comes out of human can be called God. Science reigns in the Warhammer universe, things that you can touch, measure, understand, experiment with. If you can't do that with it, it shouldn't be worshipped. And that's how the emperor feels. Well, the Emperor's children, what an ironic name, considering how they fell. The Emperor's children kind of warp that a little bit before chaos even infiltrates. And that's what makes this series, to me, so intriguing. Because we always think it's an outside force that takes something we think is good and turns it into something corrupted. When that corruption was there from the beginning, the Emperor's children falsely believed that they could be perfect in whatever it is they pursued. And when chaos saw that in Fulgrim, when they saw it in the Emperor's children, they went for it. And they turned them into some things. Let's talk about that. So the other Primarch that we pick up with in the Angel Exterminatus is Perturabo. Perturabo is the Primarch of the Iron Warriors, another legion. But what he's known for is his building ability. Not like I got, y'all saw my. Did I ever put my little Connects Ferris wheel on here? It's going on here right now. Pause. See that? I got that for Christmas. It's a whole Connects Ferris wheel, and it works. It's awesome. I put that together. It's made for 9-year-olds. I don't care. I think it's awesome. My 9-year-old self jumped for joy when I put that together. It was a lot of fun. Mom got my number on Christmas. I'm a nerd. We like stuff like that. Anywho, but Perturabo is beyond gifted in building ability. This Primarch literally can reform an entire planet's surface in a day with his legion. Think of the most extraordinary architecture of our time, and it's nothing to him. He can build great mazes. He is a complicated thinker. He's actually a very reasonable Primarch as far as they go. His fall to chaos is much different than the other Primarchs, at least in my opinion. Because a lot of the other Primarchs, Lorgar, a lot of the other Primarchs were like, ooh, magic, chaos, boo, dive right in. They were just into it. And Perturabo didn't have this big turn to chaos. He saw the flaws in the Emperor's plan to conquer the known galaxy and known universe for humanity. And he saw that the Emperor was one day not going to have a use for this machine of war that he created called the Legiones Astartes. He was looking forward to the future and thought, there's going to come a day he doesn't need us. What happens if we do bring peace to the galaxy? What need of there is a warrior in a time of peace? What need for there is a politician when nothing is any use politically any longer? And that's what turns him. He turned due to logic, whereas Fulgrim turned because of his vanity and selfishness. It's very interesting when you think on the histories and look back at our own human history and think of leaders who made certain decisions or did certain things and why they did it. Why did they make that choice? Was it because of financial gain? Was it because it was the best thing for a group of people? Was it out of selfish reasons? Those are all very interesting points to observe. And that's what I love about the Warhammer series. It helps us take a step back and look at history and look at those that we admire and look at even the world around us today and go, why is this happening this way? Why did they make that decision? Anyway, I digress. Now, in the background of Perturabo having, his midlife crisis, wondering, oh my goodness, the Emperor's no longer going to need me. What am I going to do? And Fulgrim being pretty boy Fulgrim and being like, I'm in chaos and look at me now. I'm crazy, but nobody cares. That's Fulgrim. He's in his own special world. In the background, there's a lot happening. I'm not going to dive super deep into the background stories, except for one. And that would be of Fabius Bile. What a name. You let this man in your legion and his last name is Bile? He's already evil. Anyway, Fabius Bile is a apothecary of the Emperor's children, and he's already turned. He helped turn Horus. He was a part of that whole thing, and he's real happy when his own Primarch turns. But as an apothecary, part of his job is creating legionaries. When the novitiates come in as young boys, he's the one who determines if they are physically capable of becoming legiones astartes. Can they take the gene seed? But he takes it a few steps further. So he does his job to, make legionaries. But then he starts experimenting. And he's been doing chaos experiments on space marines and humans for who knows how long, honestly. I tried to pinpoint when he started his crazy in the books, but it seems like he's, for a long time, been wicked. If you were to go into his laboratories, it's a horror show. You think Silent Hill is bad? Kind of glad some of these haven't been turned into visual media, because they would just not sure we could handle it the way that Graham McNeil describes it in the book. He is toying with pain and death and disease, literally as if they are chips on a gambling board. Whenever Fulgrim's legion attacks and takes prisoners, some of those prisoners are given to Fabius Bile to experiment upon. And he is turning his own battle brothers into monsters and causing them to lose what is left of their minds. And one of the warriors that he captures, we follow his story as Fabius continues to experiment on him and experiment on him and experiment on him, and not letting him die or taking him to the edge of death and bringing him back, cutting him open, it's bad. I can't get too graphic, because the YouTube be analyzing what you say. It's bad. Is bad, and everything in Fabius's little laboratory is bad. But we see this one space marine witness what's going on, and he's determined. I believe he's an ultramarine, so they're like the most noble, right? Because they're ultra. But he's trying to hold on to his humanity, which is really sad, because the whole point of becoming a space marine is you're better than human. But all he wants to do is hold on to his humanity. And every time Fabius does something to him, he's less and less human as a result. And Fabius takes all of these unwilling test subjects and turns them into hideous denizens of chaos. He not only, imbues them with chaos power and magic, but he's cutting off limbs and sewing them back on. He's adding things. He's taking things away. Like, they're not human. Nothing about them is human anymore. And he's taking away their humanity. And as they slowly have their minds and emotions chipped away, this one Marine, we're following it and we're watching him become something else. And he doesn't want it to happen to him, but there's nothing he can do about it. And this Fabius has been in the underbelly of the Emperor's children doing these things for a number of years, and no one knew. Or those who did know were in on the game. And that's what's scary about reading books like this. How much is going on under the surface that we don't know about, that's influencing what actually comes out? Because we think the stuff that comes out, that's the whole story. we don't want to know the whole story. It always trips me out when I see conspiracy theorists and stuff who are like, we're going to figure this out. I'm like, you don't want to figure it out. You don't want to figure it out. There's a reason there are secrets. Leave Roswell alone. We don't need to know. You don't want to know. You're going to find out you have a Fabius bile hanging out somewhere. Fulgrim's just letting him run rampant. Once chaos is fully a part of the Emperor's children, he lets them do whatever they want. His ship goes from being just this artistic palace to just, you know that scene in Jeepers Creepers where they get into the Creeper's lair and they got all the bodies sewn everywhere? Yeah, that. That, but worse, is what it turns into. That, insert a little Silent Hill for the room in there, insert a little Dead Space, insert a little Halo. That's what we got going on Fulgrim's ship. And he's all about it because now their pursuit of perfection is trying to perfect their experience of battle, which is in pain. And they enjoy inflicting pain on themselves and others and taking it to the limit. It's a whole thing. And Fulgrim, under the guise of brotherhood, because now they are two legions turned against the Emperor, and Horus is somewhere, and they don't really care about Horus's mission at this point. They just are off doing their own thing. He extends the right hand of brotherhood and fellowship to Perturabo because he needs him. He needs his brain and his ability to create and decipher mazes. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit as to why he needs them. There is a legend amongst the Eldar, which are basically the elves of this world, but there's a legend amongst the Eldar of an angel exterminatus. It is a being of great power and terror that was born from the ripping of a star that was the embodiment of an Eldar goddess. And he was born out of the worst circumstances. But apparently the spirit of that cursed godlike creature could be imbued to another. And Fulgrim wants to become the next angel exterminatus. But to do that, he actually has to go into the Eye of Terror that lets them... Okay, back up. If you don't know what the Eye of Terror is, an Eye of Terror is a rip in the warp where you can go straight in. The reason it's called the Eye of Terror is because when you go in there, you're going to be terrified because it's nuts in there. But there's a rip. It's not called the Eye of Terror yet, actually, at this point. Perturabo gives it its name. Actually. But that's a whole other story. But the Eye of Terror is a rip in the warp that's way out in space. Fulgrim wants to go there. There's a world in the warp that he wants to go to that is a maze-like world that requires someone with Perturabo's brain to get there. And Perturabo, you kind of feel sorry for him during this whole process because he is getting played by Fulgrim. He is getting played hard. He thinks that he and Fulgrim are growing closer as demigod brothers, that Fulgrim is helping him to become better as Astarte's leader, as a Primarch, that they are going to form this war bond together and go off and do great things. And there are moments of suspicion that he has with Fulgrim. He knows Fulgrim is special. He knows Fulgrim is not to be trusted, but none of them are to be trusted because they've all abandoned their vows to the Emperor. So who can you trust when you've already turned against your biggest vow? I think that's why people have such a problem. Well, I mean, when I say people, I mean always speak from a place of I. But I think that's why there's such a problem when you see people that you admire, especially if they're in positions of power that make decisions for other people, and you find out that they've betrayed their marriage vows. It's like, if you're not going to be loyal to your spouse, why would you be loyal to me? You don't even know me. We don't have a 35-year history and 7 children. They've betrayed their ultimate vow to the Emperor and to humanity. None of them are trustworthy. None of them. And Fulgrim wants to tell Perturabo of his desire to find the Angel Exterminatus. Not become, find it, and use it as some kind of weapon. And Fulgrim is so vain, and he's so good with his words. He entices Perturabo to hear about this story of what could be, and what this is. Fulgrim convinces Perturabo on this abandoned planet to build him this just insane amphitheater. That's the only way I can describe it, but it's more than that. And it's like an amphitheater half the size of the planet, but Perturabo and his legion, being great builders and maze makers, they literally build in like 14 hours. The future is bright. I mean, what kind of job can any of us have if there's some folks out there who can, make a whole thing in a few hours when it takes us a year to build, a single family home. And then Fulgrim puts on this great theatrical performance because, that's what he does. And, it's just, you got to hear it. Please get the audiobook of this. And when it gets to that part where Fulgrim is telling the story of how the Angel Exterminatus burst forth from Aisha's womb, you'll know when you get there. It's a hoot. But he's all into it. And Perturabo is entranced. But he doesn't know. He doesn't know that Fabius Bile in the Emperor's Children is perverting the Astartes. He doesn't know that some of his own legionnaires who have fallen in battle are down in Fabius's dungeon being turned into monsters. He doesn't know that. And by the time he finds all of this out, it's just too late. I think the point of Fulgrim as a character is to highlight, how do I say this the right way? I think the point of Fulgrim as a character is to remind us that even if something on the outside appears to be beautiful and perfect, and even if they do beautiful and perfect acts, none of us truly know one another. Because under that gilded surface was festering jealousy, were the seeds of heresy, was a crack just wide enough for chaos to leak in. And it can happen to any of us. Fulgrim, before he fell, was determined to prove he was the most beautiful of the Emperor's sons. And when the Emperor didn't give him that acknowledgement, it hurt him to a point that he turned himself into a demon. Hashtag daddy issues, right? But that's a lot of what these books boil down to. We only know people to the extent that they let us get to know them. Think of public figures, politicians, celebrities, athletes, the rest of it. We only know, even with the advent of social media, and we can get all up in everyone's business now, you still only know the curated image that is crafted to be presented to the public. You don't know them. You don't know what's going on in their house. You don't know the words that are said when there's nothing recording. We don't know those things. And then when we find something out, we're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I can't believe. Like all of us weren't capable of those things. Like all of us haven't made an off-color joke when we thought we were just with our close circle. Ooh, did that hurt? Yeah, should. Like all of us haven't said something that we may not have said had certain other people been around. That we shouldn't put people on pedestals because people will always fail you. Or if you're going to put a person on a pedestal, put a caveat. And remember that we love and adore people in spite of their flaws. Because we all have flaws. It's just a matter of to what level life and experiences will exploit those flaws. And will we rise above them and build something better? Or will we succumb to those things and let it rule our hearts? And the juxtaposition between Fulgrim and Perturabo and why they fell. That's an interesting read, and I hope that you will read it. I'm proud of myself. I did that in less than 30 minutes because Homegirl can talk. Homegirl can talk for days. But I do hope that you pick up both Fulgrim and the Angel Exterminatus. You know, if you go out and do things, long drives, whatever, audiobooks. I have so many pairs of headphones and they're my favorite thing. I'm going to go to Disney World this summer. Super excited about that. But I plan on downloading a couple of audiobooks from the Black Library to listen to on the way. There's some stories I haven't gotten to yet, and I love it. And so put it in the headphones, right? Or even while I'm walking around Disneyland, when I get tired of hearing It's a Small, Small World, listen to your book. So just a reminder to everyone, the contest is still going. You know what to do. Don't make me say it again. But also please like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see all of you in the next one. Hopefully tomorrow I can get my other software to work and I can start my reaction videos. Bye, friends.